Hi everyone, it's Jan Denning here from the Hospitality Partnership. We've started to do a few of these videos and we're having amazing engagement, so thank you all so much for that. And today we have an amazing associate partner with us, and that is Julian T. So I'll tell you what we're going to be talking about with Julian in a moment, but first of all, let Julian just introduce himself. So Julian, do you want to say hello to this massive audience that we have?
Hello, massive virtual audience. Fantastic. Morning, Jan. Thank you very much indeed. It's lovely to be here and to have an opportunity to speak with you. So just by brief introduction. So I'm 30 years as a hotelier. That's effectively where I sit. So straight out of school, didn't quite know what I wanted to do, like lots of people who kind of fall into the industry, but went on sort of a gap year straight out of school, worked in a couple of hotels, kitchen, restaurant, bit of reception work, that sort of thing. And that led me into a 5-year management training program with what was at the time the Savoy Group of hotels and restaurants. So wonderful properties, the Savoy and Claridge's and the Berkeley, and I spent 5 years with them, which also put me in America for a year, which was great fun in Arizona. Came back, joined the reopening team of the Royal Garden Hotel, High Street, Kensington. Stayed for a short time, was offered a role with Turnberry Hotel as conference and banqueting manager, and then first general management post in a 4-star property just on the Cheshire, Staffordshire border. That was really fortunate because from the general manager role there, I moved up to managing director of the company, which was called Compass Hotels Limited. So private company, owned hotels, operated hotels, not Compass Group, not Compass Hospitality, but Compass Hotels Limited. And I ran them for 15 years. We ended up selling those hotels and we closed that business. And whilst we were closing that business, I did some private consultancy work for a couple of years, joined a company up in the Peak District and helped them to grow a little bit, some work closer to home. And then through a chance encounter was offered a role as an asset manager, director of asset manager with a firm in London, which gave me exposure to branded properties, specifically IHG and Accor brands. 4 hotels in Scotland, 3 hotels in England, quite a different role. So I took that on board, enjoyed that for 3 years, and then came back to my own business, Compass Hotels Management Limited, in January 2020. Aim, focus on the independent hotel sector and provide advisory and consultancy services. So with classic timing, there we go, bang! Global pandemic. Apparently, I'm not the only person who missed it. Other people missed it as well. So it wasn't just me. But quite a bit of work done through 2020 with some project pieces, and then some associations formed, one of which is with, of course, the Hospitality Partnership. So to bring all of that full circle, delighted to be here as an associate member of the Hospitality Partnership after all of that 30 years. There we go.
Oh, amazing, and what a lot of experience that you have. And I can honestly say, hand on heart, we are so proud to have you as part of the Hospitality Partnership. We truly are. You know, what experience at a time when the industry and those independent hotels, venues need you most, really. So anyway, the purpose of today is to talk about an article that you've written, and it's about the value of leadership. I absolutely love it. I love it. For me, it's kind of a real roadmap of leadership coming out of the pandemic and during now, and what we're supposed to do, not only just to survive, but also to thrive and to flourish as well. And I love, you know, some words that just jumped out at me was that about engaging, empathizing, reevaluating, being ethical, the attitude that you have, the integrity and the authenticity. And they were just some of the words that jumped out at me. But I'm not going to talk about the article. You're here to talk about this fantastic article and why it's so important. So do you want to just tell us a little bit about this fantastic article?
Sure. Well, thank you. So first and foremost, I should say that it's co-authored as well with a contact of mine who is a coach, a leadership coach, and we had connected a little while ago, Ace Sinha, and I'd put a small posting up on LinkedIn, and she picked that up and said, look, we could do more with this, and so we sort of co-authored this particular article. So I'm really grateful to Ace for her input as well. But if I can, I'll distinguish between leadership and management. And so in effect, leadership, of course, being that function of the big picture, the vision, and having that energy to communicate through where things are going, versus, if you will, management of delivering of the plan. And of course, in smaller businesses, leaders and managers, there's a lot of combining of those functions. But in every business, regardless of the size of it, someone is leading it. Someone has to lead it. And I think when you hit a time of crisis, and this is a time of crisis, we've had financial crisis before, we've had recessions before, of course, but in this particular instance, we're effectively, or many businesses effectively, are starting again. But they're not starting again from a level playing field. Many of them are starting again with debt that they didn't necessarily have when they first started the business, from a slightly backward position of having to build a market and rebuild a market, but in a marketplace where there is, I believe, apathy from consumers. There is pent-up demand to spend money, without a doubt, but there's also concern and caution and uncertainty. And there are measures which people need to put in place, of course, to prove that they're COVID compliant, to breed confidence for consumers to come out again. But all of this is coupled with employees. And there'll be employees who are energized and waiting to get back to work and can't wait to get going. And there'll be those who are not so sure anymore. I've kind of fallen out of love a little bit with what I did before because I've been on furlough for a year. Or I am in a risk group which perhaps sets me aside and says I am concerned about my own health in coming into work. And so either I need to find different ways of working, or I can't continue in that role anymore. So you've got lots of different dynamics, and leaders need to step up at this point. This is about them.
I'm just going to interrupt you there, because I think many people will relate to what you've just said, just as that introduction. And it's also about that leadership, and people feel unsettled right now, having different challenges that they had before, that they were very, very capable of handling all of those challenges. And I think in our sector, and I guess every sector, but in our sector, because that's what we're talking about and that's what we know about, there's always been challenges, and we always step up and we always come up with great solutions. But this is different. And what we've noticed that as the Hospitality Partnership, and working it closely with yourself, we've been working with Worcestershire area to deliver peer-to-peer business sessions, and they're going really, really well. And I know you're delivering like 3 of those, which is great. And what is coming out of there is this lack of confidence, lack of ability, or this feeling of lack of confidence, lack of ability. They can still do this job, but there's a real now worry that are they still capable of doing it? So I guess this article is going to help that a lot, because it's not just 1 or 2 people saying this. This is big people that I've always like, oh my God, you know everything, and they're shaky at the moment, understandably, and I can relate. I am there and been there as well. So tell us how this will help them as well.
I think well, it's inevitable. You always question yourself, don't you? Especially if you're the person at the top of the tree, effectively, and it's not going the way you want it to go. So people will question themselves. I think the first thing to do in that respect is to realise, actually, person, you are still good. You've got this far. Well done. You're still here. And there are others who aren't. So in that respect, there is a need, I think, sometimes for those people at the top of the tree to look outside as well. And that can be just finding a mentor, or finding someone as a shoulder, finding someone to talk to, finding someone who can have a conversation and they can share their concerns and their thoughts, and that person can listen. and that person can feedback and can help to energize and encourage. So there's a little bit of leadership, if you will, coming in on both sides there, because of course leaders are good listeners, generally speaking. But a leader will look for solutions, and some of those solutions are going to be getting some outside help to help them, but possibly also to help the business to go forward as well. And I think, therefore, it's the intelligence of leaders recognizing that they need a little support, a little encouragement, some self-boosting to help them go forward. And in turn, they should be replicating that in terms of communicating with their teams and making sure that their teams know what's happening, why it's happening, where we're going. And that route map, that road plan is not going to be A to B. It's going to be A to some letter, Y, X, whatever. But absolutely, it's going to be up and down. And again, so it's sharing that vision and being able to communicate why it's going to be important to pivot, why it's going to be important that we've got to go down this road. But if it doesn't work, we're going to come back a little bit and go down another road, because we have to make it work. And so we're going to need to be flexible, fleet of foot. And I think linking all of that back to the article, we talk quite a lot about transformation or transformational leadership style. And if we look at transformational leadership style, that's about bringing people along. That's about communicating and sharing, versus a transactional style, which is very much follow me because this is where we're going and there's no second way. There's a place for both types of leadership styles, without a doubt. But I don't believe at present that transactional leadership, that very authoritarian leadership, is right in the present time. I think this is about communicating and bringing people along.
I think you're absolutely right, because the one thing that we haven't had to deal with before is your teams working remotely, and they're used to now going into their home office or working part-time because they're on part furlough. So it's going to be a big thing for them to come back into their offices, you know, on site or whatever, and suddenly have this big structure again. It's going to be hard. So I think that leader does need to empathise with that. So just what would you say this roadmap is? I know it's not A. Can you imagine? Wouldn't it be so easy if it was just A to, yeah, we just do that, we plan this and we've reached this. So what would you say is your A, Z, C, D?
I think it's about, I'm going to put it under the banner of having a dynamic business plan. So, Benjamin Franklin, I think it was, to fail to plan is to plan to fail, or words to that effect. Well, which however it looks, whether that's a chunky document or not a chunky document, it's a plan. And that's about scenario building. And for those people who have lending, perhaps, then no doubt banks or other lenders are looking for a plan. For you to go to a lender or to whomever other stakeholders and to put a plan down that says this is what is going to happen is unrealistic. And in the same way, none of the lenders can tell you what's going to happen either, because nobody knows.
So one of the things, and I know that you've heard this, Julian, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think this is the right time to say, and it's a really difficult one. So I apologise for putting you on the spot here. A lot of what is coming back from senior management and from leaders is, yeah, it's great. I've always planned. I've always had my strategy. Yeah. How do I plan when I don't know?
Yes.
You suggest to them.
You run scenarios. You've got to set out your stall in some way, shape or form. So you have to make assumptions, because if you don't make assumptions and work towards a point, you've nothing to aim for. So have your plan, state really clearly your assumptions, and then look at scenarios. So if this happens, then that's the effect on my business. So if there's regional lockdowns, then my occupancy is going to drop, or my diners are going to drop, or if we have a good summer, then I can perform in this way or that way. How do those scenarios affect your income, your cost structure, your resourcing? And if you can show those scenarios And if you can evidence that you know what's going on in your marketplace as best you can, then you can forecast. And if you can forecast, then you can start to work towards an end point. And you need to run that through to cash flow. Unfortunately, you've got to run it through to cash flow because, as we all know, we can all be very, very busy fools, make no money whatsoever and go bust. So scenario building, I think, is important, clearly stated assumptions, working that into cash flows, and knowing what that means in terms of the dynamics and the flexibility of your staff and your team. And it's about communicating that up the chain, down the chain, but making sure people understand where you're heading.
And working closely with your financial controller, I guess.
It is critical. And P&Ls are P&Ls. We've got income and we've got costs, so we can figure out what profit looks like. But it's that stuff sitting below the line, because there's plenty of businesses out there with C bills and B bills and deferred VAT and all these other clever mechanics that come in on top of any other form of lending or rent. And you've got debtor days and you've got your creditors. So what does that look like in that cash flow piece? And I think that's a skill piece of work that somebody who really knows what they're doing needs to work with. So yeah, we're back to our either internal or external financial control support, whatever that looks like. Okay,
so you're saying then that they should be planning now, or do you think just sit tight and wait and see?
No, plan now. Plan, build a plan, get your scenarios in place, because nobody knows exactly what's happening. So build a plan, state your assumptions, have something to work to, and know what those scenarios are. Then you can work around it. But if you have something down, you can share that with people. So all this uncertainty that's there, okay, there'll still be uncertainty, but at least if I'm a team member, if I'm a receptionist or a housekeeper or a chef or whatever I am, I can at least have something communicated to me, and I can know that my employer, who I rely on to pay my bills, is doing something, that they're thinking about it, that they're communicating with me, and we're working towards something. And I can start to know my part in that as well, because I might need to be retrained for some multi-skilling. Yeah. And I'd much rather know I'm going to be retrained on it rather than just told when I turn up on Wednesday or whatever, oh yeah, and by the way, today you're also, there's a difference between multi-skilling and retraining and multi-skilling.
Yeah, I think as an employee as well, it will build that relationship with your employer as well, because I think right now, and it's certainly how I feel, I want to support those businesses that have really communicated and supported me, just generally, that have given me good service and kept me informed. Those are the ones that I want to still do business with, support. Ones that put the prices up or didn't inform me and didn't communicate, I don't want to work with them anymore. So I think it's good for the employee as well, isn't it, really? And they'll stay with you longer. So then, why should everybody read this? And we're going to tell people how they can. Why should everybody read this?
Well, outside of it being an absolutely stunning 3-pager, no, it's what does it try? We've tried to write it in straightforward language, and there's some reference and models, and there are some academic references in there, of course, because it backs up what it is. But if nothing else, I think it helps to bring back into focus what the role of the leader is. What is that role of that leader? What do leaders do in a time of crisis? What should we be doing now in order to just help us refocus a little bit and go forward? Perhaps to bring some confidence to some people who are on shaky ground. And we've all spoken to people who are full of energy, ready to go. And we've all spoken to people who are just a little bit more skeptical. And then there are the thinkers, and we know through the peer-to-peer network, for example, that we're working with people who are intelligent people, they're clever, they've got to focus on their business, but they too are questioning a little bit about what they do and how they do it. And I think this piece just helps a little bit to refocus the mind on me as a leader. This is where I need to be. This is what I should be doing. And for some, it will endorse everything that they're doing already. Brilliant. And for others, it might just give them an opportunity to sit back for 5 minutes and go, yeah, actually, you know what? I picked up something out of that, and that could help me go forward. So I hope in that respect, it can underpin, reinforce, and also perhaps prompt a little bit in that respect. That's the goal.
Yeah, I think so. I know when I read it, it was a good and easy read with some information in there, because if it's too kind of jargonized, is that a word? But too jargon and too highbrow, then many people will switch off, because everybody's brains are full right now. So it was a really good piece, and really motivational piece as well, that made, you know, just, okay, well, let's just change that, and we'll do it this way. And actually, I could see that, and I'll ask the question now to anybody that's watching this. If you want to know more about this and learn about it in more depth, or just chat about it, we could actually do a webinar just on this, just to talk about it. I think that I've only just thought about that. So
good.
I just think I think that it really will stimulate some questions, and okay, reaching out, and how can you help? So maybe we'll look at that. Let's see what engagement comes from this video, for sure. So, okay, so any closing thoughts on it, and then I'll say how you can get this article.
I think I would say that there are, because we tend to deal with the independent sector, so there's a real mixing of roles between managers and leaders, and those people who have got all these pressures sitting on their shoulders right now, and they're massive pressures for many a person. I think people should take heart in the fact that prior to this crisis, which they did not cause, you know, and have been caught up in, they should have confidence in themselves, and confidence in their business, and confidence that they can go forward. They should have confidence in the fact that there's support out there from other parties to help them, and if they, I believe, adopt a very inclusive approach with teams, if they communicate, if they plan, if they structure themselves to go forward, then that gives them a platform to go forward with, rather than it all being up here in the head, which can become a bit chaotic for some people, and chaotic for employees who at the end of the day are effectively working not only for their own incomes, but they're creating the income of the leaders. And so communicate with your teams, bring them along, because they're the people who are supporting your livelihood. Never forget that. Never forget it, because without them, it's really lonely. It's really difficult to do it all on your own.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. It's such a key point, and it was a lesson actually that I learned, that I used to have my own restaurant, and when I first started doing it, I'd never had a restaurant before, just thought I could do it, and fortunately it went really, really well. But in my first year, I didn't share what the turnover was, which areas we were struggling in, because I thought, oh, it's money, so I can't share how we're sitting as a business, because I just couldn't do that. Once I did start sharing that, do you know what, we're not going to reach our target this month, so we need to sell more olives, more bread, whatever. Everybody really, right, yeah, come on, I'll set an incentive up and let's get loads of bread sold, you know, and it's like, oh, why didn't I do this a year ago? And it was a massive learn for me. So yeah, bring your teams along, absolutely. So this incredible article, I would suggest that everybody reads and gets in touch with Julian. As the Hospitality Partnership, we will feature it on our website as a downloadable document. We will feature it on our social media, so please do follow us, and we'll get it on LinkedIn on the business page, so please do follow us on there. And of course you can contact the Hospitality Partnership, and also contact Julian T, and he is contactable at
well, there's the LinkedIn piece, which is always a good way to get in touch, or there's the website, which is Compass Hotels Management, and all my contact details are on there. So LinkedIn or website, or of course through the Hospitality Partnership as well, through yourself, Jen, because we're in touch all the time. So any filtering in that respect is always a good way to go. So there's 3 really easy ways.
Yeah, and I think, just have the conversation. There is no obligation. Have the conversation, brainstorm, dump some ideas, and I just think, what have you got to lose? Just take a little bit of time to speak to us, to speak to Julian. So we better close it now. And it's been great to talk to you, Julian. And
lovely, thank you.
Look out for it, and let's look out for lots and lots of readers. So thanks everybody for listening to us today, and see you really soon.
Thanks. Bye for now. Thank you.
Bye.